Hello and welcome to the US version of Ask the Coach. We've done this specially so that we can get some US coaches on here because 11:45 is just a little bit early for the East and West Coast and the Central America. So today we've got three fantastic coaches with us. Let's explain how it works and then I'll get them to introduce themselves. We've had 6 questions over the last 2 weeks that have come through already. So therefore, we're going to be answering those. If you have another question, feel free to put it in the chat, make it as a question. We'll see if we can tackle that as well. This runs for about 45 minutes. And we know that not everyone has that time. So if you want one of your questions to be answered quicker than that, then you can vote on it. So if you go to the Ask the Questions now, you can see there's the 6 in there already. If you want to vote your one, it will go up the scale and we'll answer it a little bit quicker. So they won't necessarily be in that order. While you're doing the voting, let's go to the coaches and let's speak to them. So I'm going to go to Debi first. Debi's actually been a coach here on Ask the Coach before. So if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm Debi Easterday, and I am the CEO and Chief Human to Business Matchmaker for H2B Consulting. I've been working in the talent acquisition and recruiting space for 20 plus years and primarily have a focus on IT and hard to fill niche roles.
Fantastic. And you're still currently recruiting, aren't you?
Every day.
Doing from there as well as being a coach for us. And whereabouts in the US are you?
I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's like the only place I don't do business.
Fantastic. Okay, representing Fort Wayne there. Let's go to Barbara next. Barbara, if you'd like to unmute and introduce yourself. You have been with us before.
I have to unmute myself. What's really funny is I can't believe you're in Fort Wayne. I'm in Crown Point, Indiana. So we've got 2 Indiana people here. We're like 3 miles apart. I am the president of HR Search. We place HR professionals both on a direct and contract basis. So I'm involved in placement every day. I also own a training company that provides web-based training for recruiters and talent acquisition professionals in 22 countries. And I've had the opportunity to do 15 courses for LinkedIn Learning on recruiting. And Kogan Page out of London approached me to do a book for them on recruiting. They wanted a textbook on recruiting. So I wrote High Tech, High Touch Recruiting for Kogan Page out of London. But I love what we do and I'm thrilled to be here today.
Fantastic. And that's how we met, because I found your book and we do a book week every quarter on our daily workout. And you were one of our first authors that we had on that. So there seems to be a lot more courses that you've done since we last spoke.
Yes. In fact, they've taken the 15 courses for LinkedIn and they've made them into 29 courses because now they have them in 6 languages. So it's funny to watch me teaching in Chinese and in Italian. You know, my mouth is moving. It's almost entertaining to me, but yeah. So they keep expanding the courses.
Fantastic. Well, the coaches' LinkedIn profiles are on here as well. Do link in and find out more about them. And another new coach on Ask the Coach. So Gavin, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. So my name's Gavin Megnauth. I'm a technologist and have been in the recruitment industry now for about 15 years. Started life as IT director at Randstad and in Pelham Group, and have been COO at Morgan Hunter, big public sector recruiter in the UK, and have been involved in sort of 3 or 4 tech startups within the staffing sector. Currently working on some next generation technology that augments what recruiters and back office staff do in their daily lives.
I have mentioned you this week. We've done Innovation Week this week and talking about that ability to be able to take away the sort of the bottom 20% administrative tasks that recruiters do. Actually, they don't do very well at all either, do they? A lot of the time. And so your company's getting involved in that arena. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. You're going to be on Meet the Expert for us and to actually deliver a session.
I am indeed, yes. Yeah, looking forward to that.
We can learn more about that as well. Charlotte's here. Charlotte, if you want to put a link in, we've already referenced quite a few things in there. So I think the book week that Barbara was on, that'd be great to get a link to that. Gavin's Meet the Expert as well. That'd be fantastic. Let's get some of those links going. Right, let's see what's happened with the questions while we've been doing that. Okay, number 2 has come up first. So Barbara, I'm going to be coming to you first. What's the biggest challenge that the US faces in terms of staffing right now? We'll start with you, but I think everyone will have a comment on this one.
Yeah, I think they're pretty obvious. I would put them maybe into 4 categories. The first one is just filling more of the business, we're writing with top talent. You know, there are so many jobs to fill. We all feel like hamsters on a wheel right now because there's so much business to fill. So finding the best talent. The second thing is finding individuals to work in our firms. You know, most owners of staffing and recruiting firms are hiring because there's so many jobs. And I love that recruiting is finally one of the top 10 professions. It never made the top 50 list. And now kids in college want to be recruiters. I spoke at Purdue University recently, and they want to start a program on recruiting. So I love that. But, you know, recruiting firm owners are having a hard time finding people. The third thing would be problem areas: no shows, no starts, ghosting, counteroffers accepted, people accepting a job, going to lunch on Wednesday and never coming back and never calling the company or the recruiter, you know. And by the way, that's not, I would not blame the candidates for that. The recruiter missed something in the interview. So we keep blaming, pointing the finger, but most problem areas can be, they can be resolved. And the last thing is the candidate experience. We only place, you know, a small percentage of the people that we represent. And the number worldwide has always been right around 5%, you know, and the problem is the other 95% can go on social media and tell the world that you don't know what you're doing. So we really have to be very conscious of the candidate experience because they're so well networked, you know, and most of your candidates should be coming from referrals. That doesn't happen when you don't treat people right. So I think we have to realize another challenge is we've gotten so high tech. Many people have forgotten this is a relationship building business on both the candidate side and hiring manager side. So we have to do that combination of high tech, high touch, because too many people have gotten so high tech, they're convinced nobody will talk to them. And it's wrong. They will if they see the benefit. So I think those are the greatest challenges.
You've opened a whole can of worms there, but I'm seeing quite a link between those. There's a lot of candidate stuff in there, isn't there? And that's indicative of the market, like you say, what the challenges that we're facing at the moment. Gavin, have you got some stats to back up this type of information?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, Barbara covered a lot of ground there, didn't she? The Department of Labour back in February said that there were 11.2 million open vacancies, and you know, it's a huge shortfall compared to, I think it's about just over 1 million in the UK. And we've been doing some work recently with LinkedIn and some industry analysts. I think there are 25,000 unfilled recruiter jobs. So that's a piece of data that we've got that supports what Barbara said in terms of the current shortfall in terms of our own industry here in the US.
Well, that's it. It's every industry pretty much, isn't it? And this is a global thing. So although we're focusing on the US here, obviously the UK, we're in the same situation. We work a lot with APAC, same situations. So it's a bit like a perfect storm, or is it catch-22? Probably both. Look at it from there. We haven't got enough recruiters, and therefore we're putting more pressure on the recruiters that are there. They've got more work to do. There's more jobs than ever. So are they thinking, I haven't got time to spend talking to people and building relationships and making these touch points a positive experience? Because actually I've just got to get on with it and fill. So unfortunately, the likelihood is, like you said, the ghosting. Candidates got no commitment to consultants. They've got no reason to share it. And are we cutting corners and therefore missing things in the interview? Debi, what's your thoughts on this?
Mine is not really anything. I don't know that there's a solution to it, but I think that more and more what I'm seeing is the biggest challenge is candidate attraction. You know, the expectation of the hiring management team where they want an A. But unfortunately, your company, your industry, your brand isn't sexy enough to get the A. You're going to get a C if you're lucky. And really, helping a hiring team come to terms with that so that they are interviewing the right candidate pool and embracing the candidate that they might not have otherwise looked at as now a contender. That's reality, because the A's are going to be working for a FANG organization. That's life, especially in tech. It's
supply and demand, isn't it? It's typically, the fact is they have the choice, and therefore why would they choose you? That's what companies have got to be thinking about.
There was a campaign, I don't know if you all saw, but it was rampant here in the States for a while on Instagram and LinkedIn. Show us your benefits. Do you remember this? And it was organizations that were posting their benefit offering out on social. How many weeks of PTO, paid family medical leave, pet insurance, luxury days, all of these different things. The average small to mid-size hiring team can't touch what those companies are offering. Businesses can't financially sustain that benefit package. You can't. So getting hiring teams to understand who their candidate pool is, I think that's one of the biggest struggles.
Yeah, well, we've definitely got enough challenges there. Luckily, the question didn't say how can we resolve them. It just said, what are they? So happy to go about there. Thank you, Barbara, for that, for starting us off on that, because yes, there is a lot that comes with it, but I think those four are pretty key. Right, I'm going to click done on that one. The next one that's coming up is, what are the main differences between the UK and the US markets, in your opinion? So Gavin, if we come to you first on this one. Oh, actually.
Okay, so I've only been out really in the US for the last 3 years based here, but I've worked for international recruitment companies. I think.
Whereabouts are you from? I forgot to ask you.
I'm in California, in Santa Monica right now. Yeah.
Lovely.
So yeah, it is lovely actually. Yeah. I think certainly from a back office and operational perspective, one of the main differences between the UK and the US is really how the complexity of doing payroll out here. With 50 different states and the various legislations by states, it's much more complex. Sorry, I'm hearing myself echoing.
We're good. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
So that's much more complex. I would say the legal burden is probably 3x what we experience in the UK as well. So there's much more overhead, I feel, in terms of running the operation and compliance as well. Healthcare recruiting has been one of the fastest growing industries over the last 3 years. I think 17 of the top 20 fastest growing recruitment companies from the SIA have been in healthcare. And there's this whole industry around credentialing, which is just a lot more burdensome than the UK. So portability of skills, every state has its own licenses for many industries. Even hairdressing, believe it or not, your certification, your license is only valid in the state in which you qualified. So these are aspects, particularly that from my lens, are very different to the UK.
Bear with me a second. A couple of people did say they could hear an echo, so whether that was me or not, I saw Catherine on there. If you could let me know if when I went mute, whether that worked. And therefore, I'll mute all the time then. Yeah, that's fine. There's obviously a feedback in there somewhere and I'm not hearing it, so it's me. That's the problem. Okay, thank you for that. We'll move on. It threw me a little bit because someone voted on the question as I went to say it and it moved and it was a different question that I was expecting, but luckily that was a great one for Gavin anyway. So that was question 3. Question 4 is coming up next. So Debi, I'm going to come to you for that one. What's the main method of sourcing candidates in the US? So this is someone that's actually been offered a job with her company in New York City. She's moving in about 5-6 weeks' time. So she's knowing this was on, she's trying to get as much out of you guys as possible. So she wants to know, what's sort of the main method of sourcing? What do you use? New York if you can, but if not, then generally US, that would be great.
A lot of the tools are universal, right? I mean, they defy geographical boundaries. I mean, social is your number one tool. Depending on your careers page, that's going to be, depending on your social presence and your brand, that's going to be a draw. But I will tell you, my biggest, especially in the New York area, my biggest source of candidates has been referrals. You go in and you build a network. Go where the candidates are and where they live. And if you're in healthcare, looking at healthcare groups on LinkedIn, where you don't have to be a professional to join, but you start showing up in the room and you start commenting and showing that you're knowledgeable about the industry. You start having sidebar conversations with people in the group and making organic networks, not where you're leaping in and trying to sell somebody something, which is not, it's not a tactic. It's a waste of everyone's time. You're going to be deleted. But going in and saying, I'm new to this industry. I see you've been very successful in it for the past decade. Would love to find out where you live. Are there meetups in the area, that healthcare professionals are going to, and having, going to where they're at is always the trick. And not going there with your salesman hat on. I think that the best part is actually showing interest in people, finding out if there are ideal candidates for your jobs, finding out where people in your organization that you're hiring for, where are they going? Are they involved in groups? Are they involved in meetups outside of the organization? Are they attending webinars that you should be going to? Are they at events that you need to know about and show up in those rooms? So I think that the one thing that's come of this market is that the candidates have a lot of choices. If you're going in with an approach that you were using 10 decades ago, wrap it up. It's not relevant anymore. Wrap it up. You're not going to be heard. So it's about making one-on-one connections and not just email blasting people, because that's what everyone else is doing.
I feel like we've gone
to that.
Yeah,
I'd like to add to that, if you don't mind. LinkedIn put out some statistics recently that 82% of all people that are finding a new career right now are doing it through networking. And so that's what recruiters have to do. They don't want us to post and pray, because they're doing that. Companies spent $2.5 billion in 2021 on job board ads and website SEO, and they're not getting what they need. There's a reason why a lot of the job boards are going into different businesses right now. So the clients' job boards and website postings attract 15% of the workforce. The other 85% is out there working. They're happy. They're doing a job. But LinkedIn also revealed that when a person takes a new job, they update their profile within 24 hours. It used to be 3 months. Now they're updating it within 24 hours, which means they're open, And so I think I agree totally, that your referral is the best thing. Everybody that you've placed in a job, everyone that you've interviewed, if they have a good experience, they're either your army of recruiters for you, or they're being recruited by someone else. And so candidates feel like a number. They feel like recruiters are calling, pitching jobs, or they'll put an email on LinkedIn. I saw your LinkedIn profile. I have the perfect job. And they're like, no, you don't. I don't like what I'm doing. So pitching jobs has got to stop. We've got to call and give our brand. Like, I've helped 7 people with experience similar to yours advance in their career in the last 90 days. Would love to see what you see yourself doing next. When can we talk? When is it best for you? So we've got to quit pitching jobs and pitch. I'd love to have a discussion about what you see as career advancement and take our direction from them. The last thing I want to say is, if you want to really increase the number of candidates that are referred, never ask people who they know that's above average. Who do they want to refer? They're always going to say, I don't know anybody. So if you hear the word, I don't know anybody, now you asked the wrong question. Ask them, who was the best engineer from your last place of employment? Who was the best .NET developer from your last place of employment? You'll always get a name, because they can't say, I don't know anybody, because of course they know the best person from their last place of employment. The last tip I would give is, when you interview somebody, call their last 2 or 3 places of employment and ask for them. And when they say they're not there, ask to speak to the replacement, and then recruit the replacement. They have the same skill sets. So those are just a couple quick tips.
That is a brilliant tip that I've never heard before. I love that. Thank you for that. Picking up from there. But then I've not been a recruiter for 20 odd years, so I'm going to let that one fly. Right.
I will say, I love that you use the phrase post and pray, Barbara, because it's, I mean, that's what, I can't tell you how many recruiters, that's how they're recruiting. That's what they're doing. They just post on Indeed, and their organizations are getting the best of who's applied.
Right. I compare them. I always say they're goldfish recruiters, because goldfish recruiters sit like a goldfish in a bowl, and they wait for people to feed them. They wait for people to call them. really great recruiters are like sharks. They go out there, they track down, where do these people work? Where do I have the best chance of finding them? And eventually they eat the goldfish anyway. So you can't afford to be a goldfish sitting in a bowl. You've got to control your destiny by your planned outgoing calls, not who's going to call you back or who's going to answer an ad or a posting. That's what companies are doing. They expect us to recruit the talent they can't find on their own.
Yep.
I've now got a view of recruiters that get that sniff of one drop of blood in an ocean, and they go from there. Fantastic. Right. Question 4. Oh, question. Yes. No, I've done question 4. Question 5 is the next one that's on there. Okay. Let's come to you then, Debi. What impact has politics had on the staffing industry in the US? I don't know where you're going to go with this one, but good luck.
A huge impact, at least from what I've seen. But I network with candidates. I know my candidates, and I know that my candidates have very differing views on politics and religion and what culture, what an ideal perfect culture looks like. And but this is why I'm like, not every client that I work with is a client where I would enjoy working. But I have people in my database who that is their dream job, So it's knowing the politics of the people that you're placing and understanding where they're coming from, and knowing that if someone that you are working with is just desperate to be able to find a job where he can bring his partner to the Christmas party without there being a bunch of discomfort, or that I can actually invite my partner to this Christmas party. I mean, that in and of itself is a big deal. But people are feeling more empowered to be who they are and to have their own authentic voice at work. People are not code switching. They're refusing it. These younger generations, they're saying, this is me with, I am out, I am blue haired, I am whatever I am, and you might not like it, but I don't need you to. And I love it. I think it's wonderful. I think it's the best thing that's ever happened to employment, because people are going to find their tribes, and they're going to find organizations that will embrace them. And organizations are now forced, I think, to become more transparent, whether they're doing it voluntarily or whether they're being outed about their practices by their employers or their employees or their past employees. Politics is important. It's a part of the work experience. And if you are, someone who is devoutly Christian in every way, and you are extremely conservative, right-wing, and this is who you are in your day-to-day headspace and heart, and you go into an organization where people are coming in scantily clad and talking about their torrid weekends and partying like rock stars, it will impact the way that you can work. It will be a distraction. It will put you in a place where you don't respect the people you're working alongside of. And so then how hard are you working for them? So I think that politics entering the workforce is the best thing that's ever happened, because it's going to make sure that teams are working with a sense of mutual respectability. And if you as an employee aren't feeling respected, you are now empowered to leave and go someplace where you will be. And I think that organizations being forced to take sides or to make political statements by putting out an LGBTQ message of support, it's going to attract the right people, and it's going to keep the right people from applying.
So we've got a double-edged sword on that one. I want to hear what Gavin's got to add to that before I put my 2 pence in as well. And then Barbara, if you want to add as well afterwards.
I can talk to probably directly to specific examples that have affected our work over the last couple of years with regard to, I don't have a front row seat, obviously, in terms of legislation, but seeing that the downstream effects of politics in the workplace and recruiting. So obviously, as I mentioned, healthcare is something that I've been involved in quite a lot over the last 2 years. And I'd say over here, COVID's been much more of a political football. It's been quite a polarized view in terms of mask mandates, vaccines, etc. And I was only speaking to a recruiter literally yesterday in California, where they're still struggling to get travel nurses over in California, because California have much stricter laws around vaccine mandates, and they're doing a lot of work around making sure that nurses do indeed have vaccines. And you can just Google this and look this up. There have been major incidents of fraudulent vaccine certificates within the nursing industry. I think recently there was a couple of nurses who were fined, who pocketed over $1.5 million by faking vaccine certificates for healthcare workers, and there have been other cases as well. So it's harder to get people to want to come and work in California. And this is what recruiters are telling me. If their beliefs are that they don't want to have a vaccine for whatever reason, and of course they can't fraudulently do that. The other incident as well was in Texas last year. A big political debate here was around women's rights and what Texas officials were doing with regard to women's rights and abortions. And there was we suffered a bit of a backlash with a major tech company, it's based out of Austin, who were very silent on this issue. So the intonation was that they were not as supportive of women's rights, or taking a liberal stance on the matter. And that affected candidate supply. Gen Zs coming through just didn't want to work for this company, and they weren't cancelled, but effectively we had candidates who just didn't want to work for them.
The only thing I would add, I think we're facing politics in companies. We're facing politics on a local, wherever you live, on a state, and on a national basis. The H-1B visas are really impacted by who's in political power. And you've got so much talent that, especially IT firms, when they're hiring contractors, they want to bring contractors in from other countries. And so whatever the government decides to do with those H-1B visas really impacts technology companies in our country. Healthcare, I've seen, healthcare reform has put many light industrial temp firms out of business, because the clients don't want to pay more, and these temp firms are having to provide the health coverage, and if they don't, the fines. I mean, literally, you see many of those firms, I'm helping many of those firms scramble to do more high-level contract or more direct hire, because they had to get, you see many firms going out of the light industrial, call center, high volume, fast paced type of business, and also corporate tax policies. It depends on who's in charge, how heavily staffing and recruiting firms are taxed, how heavily our clients are taxed. So I think, politics affect us on a very high level. They affect us on a state basis. I'm in Indiana, just like you are. And Indiana has been pretty simple to understand, but my marketplace is Chicago. And day by day, the vaccination rules change. Can I go see my client? I was visiting my clients in parking lots, taking stadium chairs and bringing Jimmy John's. And that's where we did our client visits, because you never knew if you could go in or not, So I think that politics has a dramatic impact. And millennials and Gen Z, they want to work for companies that they believe, they want a diverse workforce. They want companies to back the philanthropic causes they believe in. And so it even goes further than politics when you're talking culture. The younger and millennials and Gen Z are now 52% of the workforce. And by 2025, which is 2.5 years away, they're going to be over 70% of the workforce. And so if there's people out there that are complaining about or blaming everything on millennials and Gen Z, you better learn what's important to them, because they're already the majority in the workforce. And for the first time in history in the United States, over 50% of our workforce is not working a traditional 40-hour work week. They're working 2 part-time jobs. They're working as consultants, as contractors. People are choosing. So, you've got to look at the whole big picture to really see what you're dealing with in the recruiting profession.
It does seem like over the last couple of years, and definitely the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a huge shift, isn't there, in the way that we're working, the way that companies are. I'm listening to some of those comments. It was taking me back to every company, even if they're not a big corporate wanted to act like a corporate. And over the last 10 years, that flexibility of who you are and what you're all about and how you look and how you portray yourself, companies have got their, well, all due to branding, isn't it? It's all, if you think about it, all social media and putting yourself out there, and that authentic, be you, be whatever you are, allow that. Now, my only issue with that, I saw that Joe Major's on here. So if you need a diversity coach, she's your lady. Then we've also got the scenario of if you are recruiting your tribe, as you mentioned it there, then we've got the opposite effect of that. Then we're not going to get diverse. And I know that you mentioned that as well. So unfortunately, there's no easy answer to that one, is there? I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's going to be disappearing again soon. So I think politics will impact every aspect of people's working lives as well as their home lives. And we've got a lot of that going on at the moment. So definitely. Thank you for all your comments on that. I think we should probably do a session on just that, I think, and start looking into that. Right. Next question then. Hopefully this is an easier one. Gavin, I'm coming to you. How many staffing companies are there in the US?
Yeah, so recently done some work with LinkedIn and some industry analysts. So I think that the early figures from 2022, I think there's 22,500 recruitment companies. And I think there's 265,000 individuals in total in the staffing industry. So really quite interesting. So less actual companies than the UK, but for a much bigger market. But there are many more. I think there are over 110 recruitment companies with revenues over $100 million. So there are some big whoppers out there. So yeah, that's those are the most recent stats that I've got access to.
It's interesting that more companies here in the UK, but a lot less people, because the last number I've got, obviously this last couple of years will have an impact on that, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out. But we've got over 100,000 workers here, but with 37,000-ish companies. But yeah, so bigger companies in the US, slightly less of them for a much bigger area, obviously. So maybe not such heightened competition in certain areas. Barbara, what would you like to add?
No, the only thing is LinkedIn came out with a number just recently that the staffing and recruiting industry in 2021 in the United States represented 31% of global staffing, and it was $151.8 billion that was generated by the staffing industry in the United States. So just like you said, that there's the companies, Gavin admitted, a lot of these very large companies are based in the United States. When you think about that, $151.8 billion was generated by the staffing and recruiting industry in this country. Big impact.
It is. I think we got up to about 38 billion here in the UK. So yeah, much bigger market. Apologies, there's a little gap. I am having to mute myself because I'd rather you didn't have the echo. If it's still there, let me know if you're still hearing that in the chat. But usually I'm a little bit slicker at coming in on those. Okay, so big market. Lots of opportunity, lots of revenue. I mean, to me, it's the perfect time to be getting out there. So if you're thinking about working in the US, then maybe it's this year or next year that is the time to do that, because yeah, it's a fantastic market to be working in at the moment. Okay, that was a quick one. So we're now to question 6, and I would love all of your comments on this. I've still got issues with time. This could be me writing this, but this was someone else that asked for a time management course. We have got a short course on time management that Claire wrote, so we'll get that in the link if you want something quick and easy. But let's get all your tips. I've still got issues with time management. What's your best tip for getting things done? Okay, Barbara, we'll come to you first.
I think the best solution for time, you can't manage time, you manage what you do within it. So planning. Everybody that I meet that is really tremendously successful in our profession, they know the calls they're going to make the following day. And if you're not a planner, you can't go from not being a planner to being a planner. Just every evening before you leave work, write down the 6 things closest to the money, the 6 things closest to closing, and make a commitment that you're going to get those done the following day. and you can't leave till you get them done. So you write down the 6 top priorities. That way, when you're pulled in many different directions all day long, you're going to always do what you should be doing. Because I've had it happen where, oh my God, I forgot to check a reference. We forgot to debrief somebody. So if you write down the 6 priorities and 10 calls that you're going to make the following day, then increase the number of calls every month till you're planning your calls. The other thing is you've got to know what results you need individually. What are your numbers? Like how many interviews you do till somebody's sent to a client? How many first interviews do you book till someone's hired? To me, that's the most important number to know. How many people do you put in front of a hiring authority first interview before you get a hire? And once you know that number, you can predict your income, you know what you have to do. It's never about the numbers of calls. What results do you need? And then we also answer email 3 times a day. We only answer email first thing in the morning, at noon, at the end of the day. If you constantly answer it when it appears on the bottom right corner, it distracts you, and usually it's other people's priorities and not yours. And we tell candidates and clients how it benefits them. Like we tell candidates, we answer email 3 times a day, because all day long we're marketing you to our best clients. We tell our clients we answer email 3 times a day. If you need to reach us, pick up the phone and tell whoever answers the line to interrupt me. No matter what I'm doing, I'll take it, because we're trying to find the talent that you need to hire, and they love it. Because I find email is one of the biggest time wasters. But I do believe in planning and figuring out your priorities the night before. Never think you're going to walk into work and plan. Those are my top tips for time management.
We definitely hit my one that's an issue, which is the email one. I'm going to commit to doing that next week. For 5 days, I'm going to answer 3 times a day. So anyone can tell me off if I'm not answering first thing in the morning, lunchtime, or at the end of the day. And I'm going to see the impact that has on me. Okay. Debbie, do you want to add your top tip for this?
I'm dying laughing at how differently we're all wired, right? Because Barbara, I live in my inbox, and that is the only way that I stay on track, is because I put it in. If it's in Outlook, it's happening. If it's in the calendar, I'm remembering. So if I'm working along and I think, I need to remember to call so-and-so later. Well, I go right to my calendar, do a quick calendar invite. So I know at 2:00 I get a meeting invite, notification goes off, make sure you call so-and-so. Oh, great. And then I interrupt. But I chunk out my work based on how much time it's going to take me. So if I get a quick email and I look at it and I know I can answer it, I answer it right then. Delete. And then and this is how I keep my inbox clean. And that's the only way I could possibly stay organized, is to give myself action items. Because if there's a due date, going back to my academic career, I don't miss it. I don't view due dates as optional. So if it's on my calendar and I've given myself a time that is due, that's when I do it. So I live so that all of my mental information and things to do is centralized in one spot. And for me, that's my calendar. But for someone else, it could be Asana or an app. But I think centralizing your action items in one spot so that you can see them, for me, has been game changing.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I agree with you, but we put action items in the ATS. So we use we've always got our ATS up. I live by my calendar. Like, I don't multitask. People think I do, but I might have, when I'm doing something, I am focused 100% on it. I might be switching gears every 15 minutes, but my calendar dings me and tells me when to switch gears. So I totally agree with you, but I use the ATS as opposed to Outlook, and I don't answer emails because, again, we all work differently, which is the beauty of having a panel. It's good for people to hear different points of view. So I love that you did that, because the same thing doesn't work for everybody. You have to figure out what works for you to have best use of your time, where you're not distracted all day long and you don't get the important things done.
I agree with that as well, because we're all different. We all work differently. So more views, the better you work on them. That's why I'm going to try that next week, because I've never done that, and I think that may help me with regards to time frame at the moment, because it's manic for everyone, and it has been for months and months and months. There wasn't even a stop at Christmas and New Year, was there? It's just gone full on. So Gavin, you look very calm, cool, relaxed, chilled out. It's early morning for you, so I'm thinking
I'm not really awake yet. Yeah.
What's coming up for your day. Yeah. So what's your top tip here?
Well, actually, I mean, we this is a problem that we really address, and we do it differently. So rather than sort of tips and techniques, we take a much more disruptive approach to this in terms of how we support recruitment companies. We deliver software that basically negates that bottom 25% of everyone's job. So we're freeing up, up to 90% of a person's day back. And the way in which we do that is we go into companies and say, what is the worst 25% of your job? Or, with recruiters, if you're a $1 million biller today, what would you need? Or if you were to be a $2 million biller? And I think what we then do is, they talk about, well, if I had another pair of hands or an intern to help me. And effectively, we create software that uses your existing software and does the admin and does lots of this processing work for you. And it's very bespoke. So rather than a big platform, like a marketing automation platform or a sales accelerator or something that adds on to your CRM, effectively our tech, we build robots that free up both front office, middle office, and back office staff's time. And we help 4 of the SIA fastest growing recruitment companies, and have allowed them to accelerate over the last few years. So yeah, we much more disruptive, using next generation tech to deliver that.
I am so excited about where our industry is going and how AI can develop that, because we know recruiting, it's like 10 jobs in one, isn't it? So if we can get rid of the bits that take forever, and we don't do brilliantly, and we cut corners, and it's not always right, then actually bring it on. I'm very, very much up for that. So looking forward to seeing your Meet the Expert and hearing more about that and how it all works. Let me just check. We're going to be signing off soon. If you've got a question, get it in now. Otherwise, it will go on to next session, which will be back at the normal time of 11:45 till 12:30 here in the UK. So our last question then, that issues with time management. I think it's always going to be an issue. I don't think we'll get rid of everything, but if we could get 20% of our time back, that would be amazing. We know we're going to fill it with other stuff. It's not like we're not going to be doing anything because we're recruiters. There's always things to do, isn't it? I must admit, when I finish work, I get the question, "Oh, you finished?" And I'm like, well, no, I could work 24 hours and I would never be finished. There's always more things that I could do. So it's back to what Barbara said, that priority, having those 6. Charlotte, if you could put in there the link to the bit of tech that we're using at the moment that prioritizes our 6 for the day. I mean, admittedly, I've been doing 3 or 4. I'm going to do 6 now, of what's most important. And it does ask you on it. So it's just a tab on your on Chrome. I'm on, and so it's just a Chrome tab, a Chrome extension that you add on, and it brings it up. As soon as you hit it, it's like, what's your priority for today? So you do get focused in, and that's really been helping me. I hope Charlotte knows what I'm talking about. I know it starts with an M, but I can never remember the name of it. But that's the one that I've been using. I just went and had a look, see if I could see what it was, but it hasn't got the name on it. Charlotte, get that in there. So from a time management point of view, let's get organized, work out what's right for you, practice it, put it into practice. There's always more things that you could be doing. We're probably going to ask that one a few more times this year with other coaches, and let's get even more ideas on that, because it's always been a perennial issue. I've been in the recruitment industry 32 years now. It's one of the first questions that came up back then as well. Okay, 43 minutes, perfect timing, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. There we go, Momentum Google Chrome extension. Get that in there, that will help you. You'll love that, Barbara. Thank you for your time today, for sharing your answers on our Ask the Coach. We'd love to have you back again later on in the year. If you've enjoyed yourself and you're happy to do that, that would be fantastic. Gavin, we'll see you on Meet the Expert. Debbie, we'll see you at some point as well. And Barbara, I'm hoping there's more books to come and we can get you back on the book week.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much.
Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.